Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. In this week's news, local residents reject a public beach, Addison votes down marijuana businesses, and the Oxford School Board will purchase land for expansion.
Stay tuned. Learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. Addison Township won't approve a beach at Smith's Landing on Lakeville Lake. Residents for and against the beach were at the December 17th meeting when some residents voiced concerns about high-speed boat traffic near the beach. Others said they didn't want to live next to the public access area with increased noise and foot traffic. Addison Supervisor Bruce Pearson said while Addison Lake is ideal, an alternate location for a beach may have to be considered.
Cannabis, or marijuana, was legalized in Michigan on November 6th of 2018 for those 21 and over. However, local cities and townships in the state can decide whether to allow marijuana businesses in their own community. On December 17th, the Addison Township Board voted 7-0 to announce a public hearing on January 14th. At this hearing, the banning of marijuana businesses in Addison would be discussed. Trustee Joel King suggested the approval of marijuana businesses could be debated again in a year or two after the law has time to play out across the state. Members of the board made it clear that the ordinance would only prohibit businesses, not the personal use or growing of the plant.
The Oxford School Board is moving forward in purchasing almost 14 acres of land near the high school. Superintendent Tim Throne and his staff have been able to move the purchase deadline to January 31st. The survey of land has now been completed and the price remains at $500,000. Tim Throne has been working to remove any exceptions to the land, meaning the district can build as they see fit in the future.
The Oxford DDA voted 7-0 to recommend Michelle Klein be appointed to the board seat left empty by Nancy Rosentrader. Klein is part of the Blue Ivy, a new store in downtown Oxford. She's one of 2 applicants to the DDA seat. The other is Sue Basardi, former DDA board member and village council president. Current village council president and DDA board member Joe Frost said while Basardi has experience, new blood and fresh ideas are needed on the DDA board. Klein wrote in her application that she wants to help Oxford grow and become more of a destination for residents and visitors alike.
The North Oakland Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 334 donated 38 bags of food to the local Meals on Wheels program on December 19th. Mary Reynolds of Oxford Meals on Wheels said the donation is needed because most of the clients only get 1 meal a day. So the donation is an excellent supplement. If you would like to volunteer for Meals on Wheels, please call 248-236-9260.
Child and Family Services of Michigan bought Christmas gifts for the kids at Crossroads for Youth. A few days before Christmas, the kids were greeted by a Christmas tree surrounded by gifts. After receiving the gifts, they enjoyed hot chocolate and cookies. Child and Family Services of Michigan bought gifts for over 20,000 kids throughout the state during the holiday season. What a cool thing for them to do.
Great program, I think.
You know, there's so many kids that really need that special attention during the holidays because they're away from home and away from their families. So,
and particularly the hot chocolate kind of got me right there. That's good.
Oh, it got you in the heart too, right?
Yeah. You know, I want to mention that this is the cold season. Of course, lakes are freezing over and thawing and freezing over. And the Sheriff's Department has warned everybody, be careful when you're out on the ice.
So Alexis Ware, one of our anchors here, saw somebody walking 2 weeks ago on Orion Lake, walking across the lake. He must have been planning on ice fishing, it had been warm. We really haven't had enough cold weather for people to be out there. And I know that you can look online. There's charts that you can find that'll tell you how many inches for walking on it, how many inches for setting up those fishing tent things. And they even have how many inches is safe for motorcycles, Jeeps, and trucks. I don't know.
Keep the trucks off the lake, I would say right now. Not a good idea.
I saw a truck go through in Lake Orion one time, and the kid scrambled out of there really fast. He was safe, but he lost his truck.
Yeah, the other thing too is if you're walking on the ice and all of a sudden you see these cracks develop,
Yeah.
you say, oh, it's
Yeah.
too late.
Yeah, so be safe out there.
Yes.
And the ice on the roads. Last week we
Yes.
had one day that surprised everybody, and
was a
there were quite
marathon.
a few accidents. Yeah, the fire trucks were going up and down M24 like it was the Indy. It was unbelievable. So yeah, be careful out there. It's still winter, even
It
though
is.
it's not really acting like it. It's a pretty day today.
But tomorrow could be.
Could be worse. That's
Yeah.
right. So that's it for Oxford News this week. If you'd like to learn more about these stories or others, you can catch us on our website at occtv.org, on YouTube, and of course our regular cable channel, Spectrum, channel 191, and AT&T channel 99.
Coming up soon, schooling around with Alexis Ware. And don't miss all the science news with Dave Kenny.
I'm Terry Stiles. Thanks for watching Oxford News this week, where we bring your news closer to home.
I scrambled that one up pretty good. And I'm Elgin Nichols.
You got
Remember,
through
always be kind to your friends and neighbors. And thanks for watching.
There's a lot of history to Oxford. Hidden around every corner, deep in every crack, and sometimes right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. If you just dig a little, you'll find the great history of our beautiful town. Welcome to Historic Oxford.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, have you ever realized that you've driven yourself home but haven't really been paying attention? Brain scans have revealed that when your mind wanders, it switches into autopilot mode, enabling you to carry on doing tasks quickly, accurately, and without conscious thought. Our autopilot mode seems to be run by a set of brain structures called the Default Mode Network, or the DMN. It was discovered in the 1990s when researchers noticed that people lying in brain scanners showed patterns of brain activity even when they weren't really doing anything. The research provided the first evidence that our brains are active even when we aren't consciously putting our minds to work. But what does the DMN do? Several studies have found that it seems to be involved in assessing past events and planning for the future. Others suggest the network is involved in self-awareness, although this has been called into question by findings that rats and newborns appear to have a version of the DMN too. It's unlikely that rats are conscious of themselves in the same way that humans are, says Dennis Vantensiever at the University of York in the UK. Instead, the DMN must have a more basic function common to all animals. Vantensiever and his colleagues at the University of Cambridge wondered if the network might help us do things without paying much attention, such as tying our shoelaces or driving along a familiar road. To investigate, the researchers asked 28 volunteers to learn a card game while lying in an MRI brain scanner. In the game, each person was presented with 4 cards. They were then given a 5th and asked to match it to one of the 4. But participants were not told the rules. They didn't know whether to match the cards or by color or by shape, for example. Through trial and error, each person figured it out after a few rounds. While this happened, their brain activity resembled patterns that are typical of learning minds. But as the game continued and the participants knew how to match the cards without much thinking, their brain activity resembled those of using the DMN, and their responses became faster and more accurate. This suggests that when we switch off our brains and go into autopilot mode, that allows us to perform tasks reasonably without thinking much about them. This might also help explain why some tasks, such as playing a well-known tune on a musical instrument, suddenly seem much more difficult when you go from doing it absent-mindedly to consciously thinking about them. In the experiment, people whose DMN structures are more strongly connected also performed better in the card game. In these people, the various regions fired together more consistently, showing more coordinated activity. This suggests that the more strongly a person's DMN is linked up, the more effective their autopilot mode, says Vantensiever. it may be possible to train yourself to have a better autopilot mode. In other studies, people have been able to control their brain activity when shown real-time scans of their brains. Wow. And in space, for the first time, a spacecraft has landed on that side of the moon that is always facing away from Earth, an area that until now we had only seen from orbit. The Chinese National Space Administration's Chang'e 4 lander launched on December 7th and has spent the past month reaching the correct orbit to attempt the historic landing. The CNSA has also launched a lunar satellite in May to facilitate communication with the lander, as there is never a direct line of sight between the moon's far side and the Earth. That lack of visibility meant that Chang'e 4 had to make its landing almost completely autonomously with no input from mission control. At 10:26 a.m. Beijing time on January 3rd, the lander successfully touched down on the surface in an enormous depression called the South Pole Aitken Basin. This basin is particularly important because it's thought to be a crater from a huge impact during the moon's early years. The impact may have punched through the crust and dug up rocks from deeper underground. If so, the spacecraft will be able to study these rocks to learn about the moon's past as well as its present. The mission will also help prepare for the moon's possible future. Researchers are keen to send radio telescopes to the far side of the moon, where radio wave pollution from Earth's communications and power lines is blocked out. Chang'e 4 is also carrying a biosphere with potato seeds, crusts, and silkworm larvae to see if they can thrive in a sealed container on the moon. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
Hi, I'm Elgin Nichols with Oxford Community Television.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we represent Minutes by Minute, in which case you want to catch local information that's going on with your government officials.
That's right. Whether you live in the village of Oxford, Oxford Township, village of Leonard, Addison Township, we'll cover it all.
All of the above, and we'll look to see you there.
Hello and welcome back to School News. This week is all about spending your winter outdoors. While there's plenty to do, there still are some safety tips to be aware of. The most common error made is believing that if you see ice on top, there's ice on the bottom, and we have plenty of lakes here in Oxford, so take a look at this picture. The Department of Natural Resources released this image in 2018 showing the thickness ice should contain before doing activities on it. They strictly forbid any activity on the ice if it's under 4 inches. At 4 inches, you can begin ice fishing and other foot activities such as ice skating. The 5 to 7 inch mark enables you to use snowmobiles and ATVs. 8 to 12 will put pedestrians in the clear to operate a car or a small pickup. And at 12 to 15 inches is safe enough for a medium truck, according to this diagram. Now keep in mind that these dimensions are based on new ice, and it may vary the longer the ice has been there. However, white ice, also known as snow ice, is only half as thick as clear ice, so it is advised that you take extra caution and double the thickness before doing any kind of activity on it. Remember, ice is never 100% safe. And keeping those safety tips in mind when traveling to one of the many parks in Oakland County, we have gotten to see a little bit of snow here that decided to stick, so Watershed Preserve is looking more and more like that winter wonderland. There's a lot to do there this time of year, including skiing and hiking up those snowy trails. This season also permits for ice fishing on some of the ice lakes, but heed cautions at your own risk and adhere to trail signage. In case of emergency, dial 911 immediately, and to report incidents or vandalism to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, call 248-858-4950 or to the park staff at 248-693-2432. The cautions and care you take in the local parks are not just for the Watershed Preserve, but for all the parks and area. We ask that you be mindful of the path you take and stay on designated trails, as well as cleaning up after yourself and properly disposing of garbage and pet waste. Help us keep our community clean and beautiful. In other news, school is officially back in for the start of the new year, and it is a slow start with only a Board of Education meeting and play rehearsals on the agenda for this week. The board meeting will be held at the high school on Tuesday, January 8th from 6:30 to 8:30. If you're interested in being involved this year, it is open to the public and anyone can attend. Next week, Oxford Middle School has their Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp Scholarship auditions on Monday and Wednesday, and Friday is the end of quarter 2 for the middle school students. Oxford Public Schools is currently looking for a 4-year-old to participate in the preschool peer model program. The program would allow students to help in preschool classrooms as role models for their peers with special needs. The program is located at the Quaker Farm School, and all students must be residents of Oxford to participate. For more information about this program, visit oxfordschools.org. We're also looking for the first student host of 2019. Thank you to all of our past student hosts. We hope you continue to do an exceptional job both in school and out. If you would like to be a student host or know someone who would, contact us at manager@occtv.org or on Facebook at Oxford Community Television. Tell us your name, school, and grade level, along with why you want to be on the show. We'd love to hear from you. And that about does it for this week's school news. Let's kick off 2019 with a lot of ambition and respect for one another. Until next time, I'm Alexis Ware, Oxford Community Television.
Hi, I'm Debbie Wren from Daybreak.
And I'm Terry Stiles from Daybreak.
Yes, you can see us every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. We are here to talk about what's going on in our community, what our businesses are doing, what our businesses have to offer. We have lots of information to provide you.
So don't miss us Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. See you there.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, General Motors hit 200,000 total electric vehicles sold in the United States by the end of 2018, reaching a threshold that triggers a phase-out of the $7,500 federal tax credit over the next 15 months, a person briefed on the matter said on January 2nd. The largest U.S. automaker reached the figure in the fourth quarter of 2018, which means the credit will fall to $3,750 in April and then drop to $1,875 in October for 6 months. The credit will completely disappear by April of 2020. The $200,000 figure covers GM's cumulative EV sales since 2010. The tax credit is aimed at defraying the cost of electric vehicles that are more expensive than similarly sized internal combustion engine vehicles. In 2009, Congress set the phase-out threshold at 200,000 vehicles per manufacturer. GM, which said previously it had expected to reach the 200,000 sales figure before the end of 2018, declined to comment ahead of its release of the quarterly sales results on Thursday. GM and Tesla Incorporated, which hit the 200,000 figure in July of 2018, have both lobbied Congress to lift the cap or extend the existing tax credit. Tesla's EV tax credit fell to $3,750 in January 1st, and Tesla said it was cutting prices on its EVs by $2,000 to partially offset the lower tax credit. In March, GM CEO Mary Barra called on Congress to expand the consumer tax credit for electric vehicles as the company boosted production of the EV Bolt in response to the consumer demand. She repeated the request last month during a visit to Capitol Hill. GM said in November it was doubling resources allocated to developing electric and self-driving vehicles as part of a significant restructuring that includes ending production at 5 North American plants. GM also announced it would halt production of the plug-in hybrid Chevrolet Volt by March. And on the robotic scene, unlike some of the so-called self-driving commercial deployments that have recently started, the Nuro delivery vehicles have no human safety drivers aboard. A self-driving technology company has launched a delivery service that's available to members of the public and uses vehicles that have no humans on board. Silicon Valley startup Nuro commenced service recently in collaboration with grocery chain Kroger in Scottsdale, Arizona. Deliveries will be made in a custom-built vehicle known as the R1. Unlike some of the so-called self-driving commercial deployments that have recently started, these vehicles have no human safety drivers. From Ford's work in Miami with partners such as Domino's Pizza and Postmates to Volkswagen's pilot project optimizing routes in Barcelona, Spain, automakers and tech companies alike see much promise in the potential profits associated with autonomous delivery services. So do grocery stores and big box retailers, which are both attempting to find ways to compete with Amazon and its Prime subscription service. It's perhaps a surprise that a startup like Nuro is first to the market. but the company has been developing the R1 since 2016. More recently, it has tested its self-driving system on the streets of Scottsdale while using a fleet of retrofitted Toyota Priuses. For starters, customers can use the autonomous delivery service from a single location of Kroger's Fry's food stores in Scottsdale. Service is available to anyone in the 85257 zip code, and customers meet the delivery vehicles at the curb. The service has a $5.95 fee with no minimum order required. While there are no humans on board the R1, the vehicles can be controlled by a remote operator should they encounter a situation that flummoxes the self-driving system. The R1 runs on public roads at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour, according to a spokesman. Wow. On the recall front, Ford Motor Company said December that it's recalling 874,000 pickup trucks in North America with engine block heaters for fire risks. The second largest U.S. automaker said the recall covers some 2015 to 2019 Ford F-150 trucks, along with 2017 to 2019 Ford F-250 Super Duty, F-350 Super Duty, F-450 Super Duty, and I'd never heard of them before, but an F-550 Super Duty pickup truck. Ford said water and contamination may get into the block heater cable splice connector, causing corrosion and damage and potentially a fire. Ford said U.S. regulators is aware of reports of 3 fires in Canada linked to the issue, but unaware of any reports of accidents or injuries. The recall covers 410,000 vehicles in the United States and about 464,000 in Canada. Ford dealers will inspect and seal the block heater cable or replace it if necessary, and the recall will begin early in January. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highway. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.